Hello, dear friends. I'm Roland Gunther, homeopath on Vancouver Island, and thank you for meeting here again with me. In the last days, I was confronted with friends, close friends, that are getting demented. So I just followed this impulse today to talk a little bit about dementia. Now, dementia, not in the sense of scientific research. You can find that online. And what I want to talk about is what I could see in 45 years of doctoring, of being a medical doctor and a homeopath, and dealing with these things. So, one aspect, dementia is a multifaceted phenomenon. It has many aspects, and I only mention a few today that I think are important. I will not talk much about the toxins, even though it's super important. We know that certain toxins from the environment go into our nervous systems, go into our brain, and they contribute to things like dementia. For example, it's pretty well known, meanwhile, aluminum, that the brain of demented people often have a high content of aluminum. And this is something that's also easy to avoid because instead of aluminum foil, we can use parchment paper for cooking. I love to do that. I wrap my fish in parchment paper and it's wonderful. And other toxins are much harder to avoid, and it's because they are in our drinking water, they are in the environment, and it's more difficult. And with many of the substances that we're exposed to in our modern life, we have no idea about the long-term effects. Okay, let's look a few other aspects of dementia. There is an aspect of overwhelm, what we call stress. And what we call stress usually is an emotional overwhelm. So it has to do with that certain things we cannot emotionally balance. We get restless, we get tense, we get tight, yeah, and then uh, our body gets contracted, and so does our mind. Yeah, we get more and more rigid, narrow, go back to old patterns. Our creativity goes down, and so on. Just the other day, I was talking with a group of elders, and we also talked about stress and how it affects us as old people. And one mentioned, and I think most of us we agreed, yeah, that when we are stressed, we forget more. Yeah. So you see, yes, our mental abilities go down under stress, at least when it's constant stress and when there's not periods of relaxation and rest in between. You can see that also sometimes some demented people display more aspects of childlike behavior. Now, this is not something that appears in old age. We all have our inner child. We all carry out the children who we were with us through life. And if they, when we take care of them and invite them and say, okay, what do I carry from my childhood? What is carry-on luggage from my childhood? What childhood traumatic experiences I was exposed to, or things that left a scar in my nervous system. And I think when we do this work and allow these things to arise and take care of our fears, of our anger and things like that, they don't get dominant later on when our ability uh, to balance that with our mental insight goes down. Yeah. So when we get older, sometimes these mental compensations are not as as fruitful anymore, and then things arise that were in the background all the time. So it's pretty good during our life already to slow down once in a while and allow these things to arise actively and give them a voice. Like I'm 70 and I still deal with stuff from my childhood, and I think many of us do, most of us, maybe even you who are listening. And we need to let these things arise, these feelings arise. And what do feelings need? They don't need fixing or anything. They need to be felt, to be expressed, and to be heard from somebody. And that's a practice we that I think can help us to stay also emotionally and mentally fluid and active a long time. It just helps us to be healthy. The whole And there's another aspect I want to mention here. There's something like division of labor. In a village, not everybody is a baker or blacksmith. Yeah, we have different professions. So in our families, there's also an energetic division of labor. Not everybody carries everything that the family holds on energies at the same time, at the same way. There's certain people that, for example, carry a higher load of the anxiety that runs in the family system. And it's not their personal fault. It's just that they resonate with that strongly and they take it on. And to a certain degree, they set free the rest of the family. But what they need from the rest of the family is their respect and gratitude. Yeah, that they do that and their support in dealing with it. In that way, also when we as a family are overloaded and overstressed and don't have enough time to slow down and to relax, there's probably certain people in our family that display the effects of that, and one of the effects can be dementia, but they also carry this for us. And when we have somebody like that, it's good that everybody in the family looks at that and says, oh, where am I not in balance? How can I take my share of this energy in order to set these people, to give them a little bit more inner space? So what it means is that we need to slow down in life. One of the most beautiful and effective ways, in my understanding of slowing down, is to meditate. And to meditate not in the sense of spacing out, going in some wonderful worlds, that's not it, yeah? But the opposite of being right here, right where I am, and allow in this quiet time of meditation where I'm not active physically, where I'm not active mentally, allow to arise what sits in my system that wants to be included, that wants to be looked at and wants to be seen and digested. That's a beautiful way of dealing with it. So in yeah, I talked about, and I want to stress that again and underline it. Yeah, this balance of activity, productivity, and rest. We have this balance everywhere in nature. I'm an old beekeeper, I used to have bees. And the busy bees, do you think they are so busy? No. They have a long time of just doing nothing. We just don't see that. When we see them, they are flying and running around. Yeah, but when they are in the hive, they have long times of inactivity. Everybody in nature has that, these times of rest. And now we think we don't need that and we are not productive enough and we dope ourselves with coffee and tea and all kinds of substances and chocolate and Coca-Cola. And then in order to be more productive and to do more and faster in a short period of time. And then in the evening, we need alcohol or cigarettes to kind of get us down and slow down. But all of that keeps our inner world captive. It keeps down what's happening inside. So slowing down uh, all means really to be physically and emotionally to relax and rest and just be open to what arises. I think this balance can be really something very beautiful. And it's not just by coincidence that in many big religions you have that in the mythology of the religion of the cultures. You have this in the beautiful Jewish tradition, the Shabbat, the time, the day of the week where you are not active on the outside and don't use electronic stuff. Yeah, you have in the Christian tradition the Sunday, and in the Jewish Christian mythology, yeah, God created the world in 6 days, and the seventh day, God rested. So you see, the ancient wisdom is already present in our mythologies, and all cultures have things like that. Now, there's also a gift that demented people bring to us, for us as family and as a culture. They bring us the gift of inviting us to slow down and inviting us to communicate not just intellectually with words, but to communicate with feelings. It's in a way the way you communicate with your dog or with nature, yeah. And this is something because we have so many words and we often neglect a little bit the feelings, the emotional content that we also send out parallel to our words, and we're fascinated by the words, and we're a little bit not as alert to the emotional content that comes across at the same time. It's beautiful to train that all over in life. But with demented people, they really invite us to slow down, to just sit with them, to spend time with them, and to feel what's happening and to sense what's happening. And we need our senses, our body senses, and our emotional openness for that. It's a beautiful practice. That is something we can learn in these situations. Now, this slowing down is also something for example, in living and working with native elders, with indigenous elders, they always, whenever I went to native elders with a question or something, they always made me wait. So if you're in a hurry, you're not worth an answer. No, none of the old people gave me an answer without a hot, or very rarely I got an answer without waiting. Because this waiting that I have patience means also I really want to know something. And there's certain things we cannot get really when we're in a hurry. They don't enter deep enough. They just enter our intellectual abilities or openness, but they don't go deeper. And that's not where the wisdom is. The wisdom is deeper. Wisdom is a coherence of the body, the emotion, and the mind. It's lived, incorporated life experience that is wisdom. So the I think that's a few things. What old people, especially the demented people, what do they need from us? They need not just being treated as objects that you have to deal with, but they need to be treated as people in a certain stage in their life that balance something that was imbalanced in their individual life, in our family life, and in our collective life. They balance with their mental state an imbalance of our of that we all create and that we're all part of in um, in revering just productivity and speed and fast and so on. They balance that for us. They need also that we spend time with them unconditional. So really this practice just being with each other without being entertained or just sitting there and holding a hand or looking both out the window or whatever, something like that. And now I also want to say something that might seem a little bit far-fetched. The way we treat nature has a lot to do also what happens in our culture. And I want to say that we cut down old growth forests is killing the wisdom aspect of nature and it affects us. What that the old growth forest is not only out there, it also has a representation in us. When you go into an old growth forest, there's silence, everything is in slow motion, everything slows down. You have this feeling, oh, there's peace, there's there's time has a different breath. And this is the wisdom aspect and elder aspect of nature. What happens when we destroy that on the outside, it does affect us. And then we will have old people, but not elders anymore. So the reverence, the respect of old age and elders needs to include also the ancient wisdom of nature. When we do that, I think that we have a chance to learn from these things that are happening, especially uncomfortable things like dementia. Thank you so much for listening to me. Thank you so much for going on this journey with me and pondering ideas or experiences like that. I think it's important for all of us and maybe for relatives of you that are demented. Thank you for listening. See you again.